Hello and welcome to Shoot the Hostage with me, Dan, and my partner, Sarah. We're a movie podcast who talks about a different film each week based on a theme. We do swear and we do spoil the featured movie, so only ever listen if you've seen the film or you don't care too much about spoilers. If you're a regular listener, you can just skip forward until you hear the intro music because you've heard all of this before. But if you are new to the show and you do enjoy what you hear, there are a couple of things you can do to help support the show. Firstly, make sure that you're subscribed on your podcast player so you get notified when new shows drop on Mondays. You could rate us 5 stars on Spotify, which couldn't be easier. You just hit the star icon below the show's artwork. Or if you have a spare few minutes, we'd love it if you could submit a review wherever you listen. Make sure you come follow us at STH_pod on social media. We are active on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. And lastly, the biggest thing you can do to help is tell a friend about the show. So that's about it. That's enough preamble from me. Over to me and Sarah for this week's episode. We're back.
Again.
Another Nicolas Cage movie.
I can't believe it's only the third.
It's only the third. Yeah, this week we're taking our faces off. Oh, we've already taken what you didn't know, or what I didn't tell you, actually, Sarah, is to prepare for the show. What I did is, when you were asleep, I made you sleep deeper with some drugs, and I cut your face off, and I cut mine off, and I swapped our faces and our voices, and I'm actually you, I'm actually Sarah, and you're actually Dan.
This is so confusing.
Yeah.
I feel like I would know that. I'm looking at you right now, and you look like Dan.
Yeah, because I've done the surgery.
But my brain is telling me that I am Sarah, so...
Oh, but that's your brain tricking you because your eyes are the windows of your soul.
This is such bullshit.
It's not.
Straight out of the gate,
did
talking
you not
nonsense.
Watch this movie?
I did
and they
watch this
explained
movie.
everything perfectly via science.
I don't know if they explained it perfectly by science.
Didn't you believe Colm Feore?
No.
And when he was telling him about taking faces off and doing haircuts?
I didn't buy it for a second. Not even when they 3D printed that ear for Gavin Belson.
Gavin Belson. I didn't know it was Gavin Belson.
We're getting way too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, you're right. 1997. It's a 90s movie.
It is.
Last week, The Rock was 1996. This week, the year after, his next movie, Face Off 1997. We've done a few from 1997 now. This will be our fourth.
Mm-hmm.
3 others. What do you think they were?
I don't know.
2 of them are mine, 1 of them are yours.
I forget this every single cocking time.
Well, there's Con Air, which is obviously another Nicolas Cage movie.
Yeah, they were filmed kind of back to back, weren't they?
I think it was...
and released almost at the same time.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. I just can't even be bothered to fight me on it.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I know they're both 97, so probably.
Yeah.
Starship Troopers.
Of course.
And Cube, other 90s movie.
Right, yeah.
It's our second John Travolta movie.
The first being Carrie. It's our second John Woo movie.
It's our second John Woo movie. We've sort of come full circle because our very first episode was on Hard Boiled.
Yeah, and as we were watching this, I did think this could have slotted nicely into season 1 or 2.
Yeah. And I probably did consider mentioning them for both because that was before we were sort of taking it in turns to pick a season, wasn't it? We both combined. Our first 3, I think, were combined seasons. So it's our second John Woo movie. You're welcome. But I am sorry that it's our second John Travolta movie. I know how much you adore him as a person and an actor.
He's not my favourite.
As a chin. I know he's your favourite chin man.
He is 80% chin. His head is massive.
I know. We spoke about that. We've spoken about that before.
I can't get over it.
It's yeah, I know. That's the most unbelievable part of this story, isn't it? That, Nicolas Cage's face would stretch over John Travolta's skull.
They would have had to shave his bone down.
Yeah. So when did you first see it then? What was your... Were you like, oh, I saw this at a cinema or renting it immediately? Like, because I was renting it. Like, it came out of Blockbuster. I remember me and my mates cycled down to Blockbusters during the summer, rented Face Off. Holy shit. I'm buying that immediately. I'm guessing you didn't have the same experience. What?
No.
How did you first see it?
I honestly can't remember.
Dunno, probably on telly, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably.
Probably half watched it while I was eating chips. Oh, God.
Will you still love me after this episode is done? That's the question.
We got through The Rock last week, all right? If we can get through that, we can get through anything.
And I would like, on that note, I'd like to apologise for ragging on a movie that you love so hard.
Don't worry. I was hurt by it, but, it's in the past now.
And I bought you presents. I did the guilty partner thing.
You didn't need to do that. You didn't need to do that. But as we're sort of getting through our Nicolas Cage season, in our very first episode in Vampire's Kiss, I made the grand gesture, the promise that I would deliver 3 facts about Nicolas Cage in each episode.
Are you regretting that
already?
Yeah.
So that's 24 facts. And I thought, that's a piece of piss. It's Nicolas Cage. And while it's probably doable, it's a lot of work and I'm going to be very busy coming up. So I'm going to mac that off completely. And I'm just going to do a fact if I feel like it.
Right, okay.
Right? But I do have them today.
Oh, excellent.
Find out whether or not I have some for next week. So it's more of a Superman fact, this one. And you're probably familiar with Nicolas Cage, who very nearly played Superman. But do you know how actually close it was to getting made?
No.
Well, it was called Superman Lives.
Mm-hmm.
A suit was made, and you can go on the internet and see that suit. Have you seen it? Like the lights on and stuff. It's pretty crazy.
I don't believe so. Like my only recent exposure to this was in The Flash.
Right. Yes. Spoilers for that terrible movie.
Yeah, I did think about that before I said it, but then I was like, who gives a fuck about The Flash?
No one cares about The Flash. Yeah, you're right. I'd completely forgotten about that, actually. And that was a very inside joke, that.
Yeah.
'Cause I feel like everyone that's listening to this probably is aware of the fact that he almost played Superman. But I don't think, like, your casual moviegoer is going to go, is that Nicolas Cage? Why is he in this as Superman?
Isn't Nicolas Cage, like, obsessed with Superman,
Yeah.
though?
I think
What's
one
his
of his
kid called?
Kal-El.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I was racking my brains.
That's my first Nicolas Cage fact.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm joking.
Sorry. Oh, no.
Yeah, so a suit was made for him. You can go on the internet and look at that. That's really cool. Kevin Smith wrote a draft for the producer John Peters in 1996, who's a bit... You heard of John Peters?
No.
Bit of a crazy guy. You can, I got most of this on research I was doing, but I had years ago seen The Death of Superman Lives, which is a documentary all about it, made by the late great John Schnepp. So if you can access that, highly recommend seeing that. But John Peters had 3 rules for Kevin Smith. The first one, while he was writing the screenplay, the first one being that Superman has to wear a black suit. Number 2, he didn't want Superman to fly.
Okay.
It's kind of what Superman is.
He's just a regular guy.
Well, I don't know if he could jump a bit, because that was the original thing. Big jump. And then the third rule is that Superman had to fight a giant spider in the 3rd act.
Oh, right. Okay.
You probably heard that one.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't, the film obviously never happened, but John Peters produced Wild Wild West, where they fought a giant mechanical spider.
Is he obsessed with that notion?
Isn't that the weirdest thing?
He's so hung up on people fighting a giant spider. Has he seen Big Ass Spider? He'd lose his mind.
It's his favourite movie. He probably produced that. He's definitely the spider guy. Robert Rodriguez was offered to direct it, but he opted to go for The Faculty instead.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I do love The Faculty.
Yeah, The Faculty is a good movie. I'm glad that happened the way that it did. Smith suggested Tim Burton as well, and Burton came on board and was paid, I think, $5 million or a $5 million deal.
Oh, is that
in place?
So is this prior to the Kevin Smith-Tim Burton feud, I guess?
Well, I wonder if this was the thing that caused it, because after Burton came on board, he started demanding rewrites of Smith's script. And after about a year of pre-production, the film was shelved because of the ballooning costs. And I don't know, maybe Smith was like, we could have just made my version, it would have been fine. But by the time he started demanding rewrites and it got held up in the writer's room, maybe that's why it didn't happen. And maybe that's why I mean, you could probably have beef about Tim Burton for numerous reasons.
Well, yeah, there is that.
Yeah. But Nicolas Cage signed on to be in it for 20 million quid, and it was meant to come out in 1998. So what did he have coming out in 1998? Oh, it's Snake Eyes, wasn't it?
I guess
We'll
so.
come back to that later.
I wonder if that'll be relevant.
Yeah.
And then Tim Burton, of course, went on to do the Planet of the Apes remake.
Planet of the Apes remake, yeah.
Which, as we all know, is a stone cold classic.
Masterpiece. Wahlberg at his finest, isn't it?
Oh,
Mark
God.
Wahlberg in a Planet of the Apes remake.
Mark Wahlberg shouldn't be in any movies, ever.
Agreed. What is my favourite Mark Wahlberg movie?
I still kind of like Four Brothers. But it's despite him, not because of him.
And there are 3 other brothers in it.
Yeah.
As well, so you got that. But one of them's Tyrese Gibson, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah. So my other fact is, it's more of a question really. Is how many times do you think Nicolas Cage has been married?
Ooh.
Does he strike you as someone that marries a lot or not?
3.
You think he's currently married and married to his third?
I don't know,
wife?
but I know he's been married at least once or twice. I know he's got divorces under his belt. I know that.
Yeah, definitely. He's currently on his 4th marriage.
4th. Okay, I wasn't far off.
Pretty close. I beg your pardon. He's currently on his 5th marriage.
5th.
Yeah. I misread my notes. Yeah, he's currently on his 5th marriage. His 4th marriage actually just lasted 4 days. So
who was that to?
That was Erica Koicki.
Oh,
Erica Koicki.
Just making noises at this point.
Married to Patricia Arquette.
Yeah.
Who was his first wife? Lisa Marie Presley.
Knew about that one.
I didn't know about either of those, to be honest. But yeah, 5 times been married, and I'm not at all surprised by that.
He's either a moron or a hopeless romantic.
I think he's probably, I mean, we watched Vampire's Kiss. I think he's probably a hopeless romantic, but insane, obviously. So you've got to live with that. I love watching his movies, but you
wouldn't want to be around it 24/7.
You couldn't share a flat with Nicolas Cage, could you?
No.
That should be a reality TV show. Share fuck off, Mr. Beast.
Share challenge.
A flat with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Live off cockroaches.
Is one of the reasons you like this film because it starts with the death of a child?
Yeah, that could be a factor.
It helps.
The carousel sniper scene.
Yeah.
With,
that's the first thing we see, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's the carousel. It's the speed up, slow down, spinny carousel time. Nicolas Cage with a moustache and a cool lemonade drink beverage, and a sniper rifle. 2 things that go together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he shoots Sean Archer through the chest and gets his kids.
I think something I was unclear on was whether or not he was attempting to shoot the kid initially.
No, he wasn't.
So the child was just collateral damage.
Yeah, it was an accident, and Archer should just get over it.
Yeah, it's been ages.
He's been in misery guts this entire movie. He's a proper downer, isn't he, Sean Archer? Even his wife is over it. Even if his wife is like, look, kid's been dead ages, shut up.
I know we're joking. Obviously, this is. We shouldn't even have to.
We don't need. Yes.
We don't endorse the deaths of children. No, obviously,
no one ever needs to say that.
Well, you say that, but people get very offended these days.
I don't care.
Interestingly, that first scene was the only thing that the MPAA actually required cuts.
Okay.
Removed from.
What did they cut out of it then?
Honestly, I'm not sure, but I think perhaps the original assassination scene was a bit more explicit.
That's what I mean. Like, are we seeing like kids' brains all over John Travolta's chin?
Maybe.
Because I'd like to see that.
There's enough of it.
It's the one thing that could have earned us another half a star. That's a joke. There are no more stars to give. It's
maximum
star movie. Yeah. You don't. The thing about this movie is you don't get a lot of Nicolas Cage being the villain.
No. Well, he originally turned the role down because he didn't want to play the villain.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is curious because he seems to be having a blast.
Yeah. I'm so glad that he did it.
Mm.
Maybe it was just because coming off The Rock, he's just starting to get into that action good guy thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, Con Air we mentioned as well. But I think he's a really good... I think he's probably more enjoyable as a villain than he is even a...
Look, I think some of the best sort of good versus evil movies or stories, I think generally the villains are more interesting.
Yeah.
In almost every case.
That's fair.
And when you cast somebody like Nicolas Cage, of course he's going to be a stellar villain.
Yeah.
But yeah, he didn't initially want to do it because he didn't want that role. But when it was explained to him that actually he would be the good guy most of the time, he was like, yeah, all right then.
Yeah, well, actually, what we haven't told you yet, Nicolas Cage, is that you're going to be swapping faces with John Travolta, and he's like, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm sold.
Yeah, I love Saturday Night Fever. Look Who's Talking is my second favourite movie. I said nobody ever. That's the first time that's ever been said. I love all that Nicolas Cage villain stuff at the start of the movie. It's very fun and just over the top and exactly what you want out of a villainous Nicolas Cage performance. It's great. The priest stuff where he's wobbling his head about.
Oh yeah.
And obviously a lot of his stuff is going to be improvised or exaggerated and takes inspiration from many different areas, as we've spoken about.
Yeah, I made the assumption that most of that stuff was maybe his decisions rather than the direction.
Yeah.
But who knows?
And it's a I would like to have seen more of him in that villain role, but it is a long ass movie and it's pretty perfect. But maybe if I had one gripe, it might have been like I would have liked another 10 minutes of the cat and mouse, maybe. Okay. Just to really almost like in a Fury Road sort of way. Like you get halfway through the movie and then we just double back on ourselves. It would have been nice to have half a movie maybe where Archer's going after Troy and you're not sure and you think, oh, this is going to lead up to a final battle scene or whatever. And then in the middle of the movie, they swap faces. You're like, what the fuck? And then it just completely reverses.
So you think the actual face-off was done too soon into the movie?
I think so. But then again, like it's... you couldn't do it now because it would be spoiled immediately. But back then you might have gotten away with that, at least to some degree.
Could make for a very confusing trailer.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, harder to market for sure. And they definitely made a decision because obviously they called it Face Off. And I think half the people that went to see it probably thought it was a Mighty Ducks sequel.
Interestingly, the studio wanted John Woo to drop the slash between face and off.
Right.
But he stuck to his guns and said, no, we have to have that there because he didn't want people thinking it was a movie about hockey.
Right.
So that was, there was like a calculated decision to distance themselves from the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, I mean...
And other, I'm sure there are other ice hockey movies. I just can't think of any right now. Oh, Goon, but that wouldn't have been out yet.
Yeah, Goon. That is the other one, isn't it? There's bound to be others.
I think, there's got to be more, right?
Yeah, it's not a genre of movie that I pay that much attention to be honest.
No, the rest are probably Canadian.
But yeah, my one complaint is maybe more villainous Nicolas Cage. But having said that, I do enjoy John Travolta as the villain in this. I know it's...
Yeah.
A lot of people don't, and I know I don't particularly love John Travolta. I've got no undying love for him. But I think he's great in this. I think he's the perfect person to swap faces with Nicolas Cage in this. I can't think of anyone else that could have done this.
Do you want to know who was considered?
Yeah, I've heard this, but go on. I've heard some. I wonder if we've got the same.
Maybe. I'm sure you've heard most of them. So, I mean, the main two... that we seem to say this a lot, but Arnie and Sly were considered.
Yes.
Why is it always Arnie and Sly?
Oh, because it's an action movie in the 80s or 90s, and when you're casting that, it's always Arnie or Sly.
That would have been terrible. How the fuck do those two people swap lives with nobody noticing?
Yeah, it's already a reach to be like, oh yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger, you're a supply teacher. There's your desk. There's where you put your protein.
Here's your brother, Danny DeVito.
Yeah. And but yeah, to have him swap faces with Sly, I would watch the shit out of it.
Yeah, of course you would, but it's a bigger ask for the audience.
I can't see it being any good.
No,
not to this degree anyway. That's crazy. I do want to visit the reality where that has happened, and I can watch it though.
Well, some others were Bruce Willis and Alec Baldwin.
Oh, I don't like that.
You were so on board in the first half.
That feels unusual to me.
Yeah.
Like Bruce Willis, I get it because he's the other action guy. Yeah. But Alec Baldwin?
Yeah, strange choice.
I can't see him firing guns and stuff, you know.
Careful.
I can't. I'm sorry. I almost feel bad about that. He's not really an action guy, is he? Baldwin?
No,
Was he
no.
there?
I don't think he ever has been. No.
I know he was the Shadow, and he did that car chase movie, which I used to like, but
It's super out of left field.
yeah,
I'm not a
weird
fan
one.
of that one.
Don't like that combination too much. No.
Who would you? So you seemed excited when I said Bruce Willis. So who would you have paired him with?
Martin Short. Let's go buddy. It's not buddy cop, is it? It's,
No.
It's villain.
The opposite of that.
Yeah. No. No, not Martin Short. That doesn't make any sense, does it? Let's test society's reaction to him swapping faces with like Will Smith or something.
I don't love it. I don't love it.
No, again, there's a reality where that's happened.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Who would you swap for Alec
Bruce
Baldwin?
Willis. I don't know.
Who would you have Bruce Willis swap faces with?
Honestly, I don't know. I was trying to think of people that would have fit in that era. Like if Statham had been around.
Statham would have been one, yeah.
But nobody else at that time. I don't know. Not Alec Baldwin. Definitely not. But some others were Jean-Claude Van Damme and Seagal, obviously.
Oh, no.
That would have been ass.
That would have been that's the weirdest one yet.
That would have been ass.
Oh, it would have been awful, yeah.
Denzel and Wesley Snipes.
That would be interesting.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, Denzel obviously acts the shit out of stuff, and Wesley Snipes is one of the greatest at action stunts and doing karate stuff.
I think the two of them would have been real interesting.
Yeah, I can see that.
And the last one that I found was Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. Like, there's no way you could have kept the tone the same with those two actors, because I know they've both done less serious movies in their time. But I think the reason this works is because it doesn't take itself seriously for even 1 second.
Yeah, you're right. It wears its heart on its sleeve. It's like, this is fucking insane and nuts. Here's some gold guns. We're doing double guns flying through the air. There's some birds because it's a John Woo movie.
Oh, by the way, they've got magnetic boots on. Like,
yeah.
Which incidentally were the Goomba boots from Super Mario Brothers.
Were they?
I can't believe you didn't know that.
Goomba. Oh, no, I want to watch Super Mario Brothers. I did not know that. That's fascinating.
I thought you'd enjoy that.
Oh, great. What you got any others? Other pairings?
No, that's it.
Because I've got one that you didn't mention. I thought you might, but I found Harrison Ford and Michael Douglas.
Oh, didn't Michael Douglas? Was he a producer?
Yeah, and that's probably why he was attached. I did see his name, Michael Douglas, and I meant to look up, is that Michael Douglas?
Michael Douglas and Harrison Ford. Okay. I don't hate that, but it wouldn't have been the same. Again, tonally, it would have been a very different movie.
I can't see Harrison Ford in a John Woo movie, period. Like,
no.
That doesn't fit to me. He's more like, John Woo is popcorn garbage entertainment, isn't he? But he's the best at it.
Mm-hmm.
And Harrison Ford is more popcorn, but prestigious, like, you know, your whole family is going to love the Fugitive movie, like something
Witness.
Yeah,
I do get the impression he just takes himself a bit more seriously, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe. I would like to see his reaction to reading this script, actually. That would be a fun thing to watch.
There is one more, not a pairing, but apparently is it Pollux
Troy.
Alessandro Nivola.
My boy,
I know you love
Nivola.
him. I know you love that character, but Mark Wahlberg turned it down.
Good.
Yes, I know.
That would have been a stench on this movie.
That would have been horrendous.
Yeah, I hate that. I'm so glad he turned it down and it was Alessandro Nivola. That might be part of the reason why I like Alessandro Nivola so much, is that he's in this movie.
Probably.
It's between that and Goal.
Yeah, I know how much you love Goal. You never shut up about Goal.
Yeah, I love Goal. I do. And then he stole that egg in Jurassic Park 3 and I was like, nah, mate. Can't do that. Gone too far, Alessandro Nivola.
So we talked about the possibles. Let's talk about the actuals.
Yeah.
So
let's do that.
Is this maybe like the definitive Nicolas Cage and John Travolta performance?
What's, independently of each other? You think it's the best Travolta, it's the best Cage?
Potentially.
I think without question, it's the best Travolta. I mean, what is second place?
Battlefield Earth.
I'm going to wear some tall boots. And we'll get to that.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Oh, no.
Is it the best Cage?
I know there's a lot. There's a lot to choose from.
The first 20 minutes might be my favourite Cage, yeah.
When I say definitive, I just mean Nicolas Cage is one of those actors, and this is something that's going to come up time and time again this season, that when he's in a role, it's so fucking hard to imagine anyone else in that same role, to the point where it feels like the roles have been written for him. He makes them so specifically his.
He always brings such a unique energy to the role.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
You're so right. And you can never, whenever you think about a recast, you're never like, who could play Nicolas Cage's character? I put him in, if I watch a movie that had maybe a good premise, but some performances were a bit flat, my go-to is
just
always
insert
like,
Nicolas Cage.
I think we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, I think maybe Vampire's Kiss might be the definitive Nicolas Cage performance on the basis that it's full Cage throughout. But I think the first act of this movie is probably some of my favourite. What's the consensus on Cage now? Because he was a bit of a joke for a while, which I think was unfair, but he did do some crap movies.
He still does some crap movies. He seems to be just working consistently and never seems to slow down. His
quality has definitely improved the last 5 years.
Yes.
We're not doing a Left Behind anymore.
But I think that sort of answers the question for you. I think maybe the general consensus has improved to the point where he's just consistently being offered better scripts now because people think so highly of him.
Yeah.
So as far as audiences go, I think he's definitely clawed back all of the respect that he had when he started out.
I think it's fully deserved. I think it's a shame that he became a bit of a joke and a meme for a while. I get it because he is over the top and weird and pretentious, but so what, man? And like, he's swinging for the fences and he's always got a reason. He's never just going, I'm just going to be weird for the sake of being weird. He's like, no, I really love German expressionism. And this is like really well thought out, and he's a nerd of cinema.
Yeah.
And you got to love that. Yes, he's a Nepo baby, but who isn't? And I think he's just great. And
he is, but he sort of made the conscious decision to sort of distance himself from that a little bit as well with the name change. And like, he's not, I don't know. And obviously his early works,
he would have gotten opportunities that other people wouldn't have got, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. But I think he's obviously talented. It's not just that he's been handed everything on a silver platter and he's coasting.
Yeah. It's interesting where he is in his career at this point in Face Off, because he's obviously done the Coen brothers stuff. He's done Vampire's Kiss. And in the 90s, he's done things like Leaving Las Vegas, which I've not seen actually.
Okay.
But he won the award for that, didn't he? Best
the
acting
award
of all time, yeah. A really important thing when I get the little statue. Oh, thanks. Bye. But he's getting into this stage in the 90s where he's becoming a bit of an action star. And I don't know if many people saw that coming.
No, probably not.
Probably not. Like, for me, it's... The Rock is probably the first Nicolas Cage movie I ever saw, I think.
Okay.
There's loads of his earlier stuff that I haven't seen, and I will get to. I accidentally watched Red Rock West last year.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was on at Prince Charles for a mystery movie marathon, and that was all right. But there was a bit of Cage spice in that, so that was kind of fun to watch. But he's definitely entered his action era in this, and it's my favourite Nicolas Cage era because it's the action, and he's done The Rock and Con Air and Face Off all in a row, and then he gets to things like Gone in 60 Seconds, which I love. And he's doing the sort of more the family orientated action after that when he's going into he steals
National Treasure.
He steals the National Treasure. And they're all right, those. They're perfectly entertaining.
He's kind of done everything, though.
He has done everything. But I find it, I don't know if people would have predicted that he would have been an action star in the 90s. And I don't know if I was familiar with him that I would have either.
Or that his career would have been so astronomical. Like he's probably one of the most well-known names in the industry at this point.
He's probably one of the most recognisable faces on the planet.
Yeah.
It's Ronald McDonald and then Nicolas Cage. And he's done everything. Like you say, he's now doing more sort of horror and that sort of thing, which I know he's a big fan of.
But really interesting choices like Dream Scenario that we recently covered.
Yes. There's a lot of stuff that it just doesn't really do one genre.
Mm-mm.
But he has little stints where he'll do a few of a genre, like
Yeah.
where we are now, the action, or later on, the horror stuff. He did a Western recently, didn't he? He did a Schrader movie with Willem Dafoe, which I watched a little while ago. He did a movie with your mate, Elijah Wood, called The Trust, which was a pretty interesting movie.
Okay. Haven't seen that one.
He's done so much stuff. But yeah, I think Face Off is peak Cage for me.
Yeah.
In 1997 is probably when I was like, this guy, because he's a bit safer in The Rock. He's a bit, he's a very unique character, and it's interesting to watch. But it's
Nicolas Cage at like a 5.
Yeah.
Whereas this is almost full 10.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know who I would have put opposite him other than John Travolta. I can't think of anyone else that could have done that.
No. But as much as I dislike I can't even say his goddamn name.
Travolta.
As much as I dislike the man, he is good in this.
Yeah.
I will.
He's a lot.
I'll reluctantly concede that point.
I could see if it gets on your nerves, gets on your wick. I can understand that because it's a lot. But I think that's what this movie is, though. This movie is just a lot. That's what they could have called it if they hadn't called it Face Off.
I think the biggest hurdle that I have is I really dislike his face.
Yeah.
And you see see it a lot.
You're in luck.
I'm not, because they put it on someone else.
They ruin both people by associating Travolta with both of them.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an answer to that question. I can't think of one person who would have done it better. No, he's enormous.
I know.
I love the fact in this, there's that line that's like, oh, the height difference is negligible.
Yeah.
There's a good 2 inches between them.
I think you're right. I think they're pretty different heights in real life.
And they have wildly different teeth. They didn't swap the teeth. His wife didn't even notice that his smile had changed.
Well, she didn't notice that his dick had changed either.
That's a really good point.
Or did it change?
Did they swap dicks?
Did they swap dick? They should have called it dick swap.
Dick off.
Dick off. Yeah. Wingard.
Nobody's confusing that with a hockey movie.
Hey, Wingard, if you're listening, there's your idea. Get on it.
Yeah, this is Face Off 2. We've written it for you.
Get a move on. Yeah, there's loads of stuff that the science doesn't allow for in this movie. Like, there's just no point even thinking about it. It's almost just like, I remember very distinctly the first time I watched it as well. I was just like, what the? They're literally, I didn't know that they were literally going to do that.
All I can say is, if the police have money, they've got the disposable income to spend on experimental surgeries that only a couple of people in the world know how to do, that's super hush-hush, nobody else knows about. I agree, defund the police. That's too much money. Yeah. They don't need it.
It's a very elaborate, weird operation that's going on here. It's all in secret as well.
But they have the pills so that they recover super fast.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
That's the thing I hated the most. I was like, there's no swelling. Like, you can't even submerge a tattoo in water for weeks after having it done. But he's just bombing around doing action stunts and like, oh no, it's fine because of the pills.
Yeah, those pills.
They've explained it.
In movies, pills always work immediately, don't they, as well?
Yeah.
But this was meant to be a proper, like, full-on, I would say, describe this movie as a sci-fi, certainly, but it was meant to be a full-on sci-fi set in the future and stuff, I think, with all like other sci-fi tech and stuff, which is why the prison boots are a thing, I think. That's
that makes so much more sense now,
a hangover from the original idea, I think.
Right.
But
what was the choice? Why the choice to do away with that then?
I have no idea. I haven't got any clue.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it was John Woo, maybe it was Cage, someone from the cast of the writers. I've got no idea. But I don't know. I would sci-fi idea. Yeah, go for it. I don't care.
I mean, this film is sci-fi.
But that's what I mean. Like, it's sort of they've tried to sort of ground it, but it's a John Woo movie from the start. So like, it's already going to be ridiculous. Then you add on this element to it, and it's just like, but to make this movie as good as they made it is kind of, I don't know, again, like, who else you would get to direct this? It's an insane concept, but for some reason just absolutely has been nailed and works. because of the absurdity of the action and the absurdity of the idea.
It
On
is.
paper, you're like, this is going to be terrible.
I think it wasn't until the 2000s that a successful face transplant had even been attempted.
I didn't know it even happened so far.
Yeah, there's a guy on TikTok. The only reason I know, I mean, because I'm not an idiot, I already know that the medical viability of what they do in the film is bollocks.
Oh, well, certainly.
But and the fact that they cut their hair whilst doing the surgery, that cannot be best practice in the medical field.
It's not the correct sequence of events, is it?
No.
No.
Like, I know you're short of time or whatever, but seriously. But yeah, there's a guy on TikTok whose partner posts videos, and he was in some sort of accident, had a full-on face transplant, and even sort of a year plus later, his face is still so swollen.
Yeah, it would be.
He doesn't look like a person.
Yeah.
It's so far out there that you have to sort of work on the assumption that this is pure sci-fi to get anywhere with it. I think
it's probably even more fantasy than it is sci-fi.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest with you, but it's fucking fun and it works, and a lot of it that I think is down to the Cage's performance. And I do love that scene when they're actually swapping the faces and you've got like the wax models or whatever they are on the tables.
I wish we'd seen more of like the gooiness.
Do you?
Yeah.
I think we got just the right amount of gooiness, because you get the really nice shot where you see the reflection in Colin Fiore's glasses, Dr. Face Swap.
Apparently that reflection shot is a bit of a John Woo hallmark.
Right, okay.
That's something he tends to do a lot.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I do question the decision when they shot down the decision to evacuate LA immediately. They were like, we can't evacuate LA on the vague threat of a bomb.
Yeah.
No, what we'll do instead is this really experimental, labor-intensive, expensive surgery.
Yeah, it makes way more sense.
I think it'd be quite a bit cheaper to evacuate. But that's just me.
Yeah, definitely. But I do, I like that as well, where you get to the point where they swap faces, and then you get maybe if I want one criticism, it does sort of dip a little bit in the middle, but you get that part where Cage, who is now this is going to be confusing, isn't it? Cage, who is now Travolta in the prison with Thomas Jane.
Oh yeah, Thomas Jane with glasses on.
Yeah, and Carol Lynch.
Oh, John Carroll Lynch,
from The Invitation. Is he in The Invitation?
He is, yeah.
So you get that part, and at that point I'm really sort of enjoying getting into John Travolta playing the villain now, and he's kind of changed his tactics, because they'd built a bomb, put it in LA, as you said, the biblical plague that LA deserves, and his plan now is to be like some sort of hero, super FBI agent or whatever, and disarm the bomb. And I don't really understand what his plan is after that. Because the second he's like, oh yeah, I know the password for the bomb, his boss is like, did you put that bomb there? Because you seem to know too much. So it didn't, for someone who's meant to be like a villainous genius, he didn't think that far ahead.
Oh, he's unhinged.
But I enjoy it though.
And he's on God knows how many substances at all times as well.
Yeah.
Whatever those yellow and blue pills were, and whatever is in his like kit.
His drugs paraphernalia box. Yeah. Yeah. He's got guns and joints in there, and
do you know what?
Pills and...
I'm English, so guns scare the shit out of me. It's not part of our culture. Any Americans listening to this, I don't understand the obsession with guns. I find them very frightening. Yeah. However, Nicolas Cage's guns in this movie, cool as fuck.
They're cool, they're gold.
They are cool as fuck.
They're closer to rocket launchers than they are guns. They're enormous. But again, just absurd, stupid.
Oh yeah, but it works.
Yeah.
Because he's such an ostentatious villain that it makes sense he would have these ostentatious weapons.
Yeah, yeah. So Cage, who is now Travolta.
Yes. You look so confused.
We know where we are now. I'm just going to refer to him as
We'll just say
Cage.
like Archer and Troy, if that's easier.
But is it Archer or Troy? Because everyone thinks it's Troy, but it's actually
That's
Archer.
That's a good point.
Nicolas Cage is in the prison with Thomas Jane and Alessandro Nivola, and he says, like, Nivola's like, well, what's up here? He sort of senses something's off, doesn't he? And he says, oh, what's the name of my drugs? What are the drugs that I take? And he says Vivex. I don't know what Vivex is. I meant to look it up and I didn't.
I don't. Maybe it's something they made up.
Yeah, maybe. It sounds legit, but they could have made it up. But I remember thinking, I wonder what this medication is meant to be for. Because what's wrong with Pollux Troy? Is that an okay question to ask?
I don't
He
know.
does like making bombs, but he can't tie his own shoelaces. What is Pollux Troy?
Are you trying to say he's autistic? Is that what you mean?
I don't know. I'm asking what if there was a creative choice, is it based on anything, or is he just being I don't know, an unusual guy?
Well, so Alessandro Nivola. Oh my God, I'm butchering everybody's names today.
Pollux Troy.
So Alessandro Nivola was watching a documentary about Robert Crumb whilst making this movie.
The John Candy movie.
A documentary called Crumb.
Right.
Don't get smart with me.
No chance of that.
So he decided to base his character in this movie on Robert Crumb's brother, and basically took all the mannerisms and the cadence of speech and stuff from the real life guy.
Okay.
So that's the extent of that.
Okay.
It's a good job he wasn't watching like a Gilbert Gottfried movie at the time. It could have turned out very differently.
Caster!
Or a Bobcat Goldthwait.
Hi, Mr. Troy. Yeah, but I when he asked him what his medication was, it did occur to me. I thought, well, what's meant to be the deal here? And then I thought, I wonder if like Castor Troy has just made up that he's got an illness just to try and control him somehow.
Maybe.
I thought that was a fun thing to think about. But he gets out, doesn't he? He gets out. And Travolta is like, come in, let's enjoy being good guys now. And she's like, all right, yeah, sweet. Get me a tongue sandwich.
So talking about the brothers at
Mitchell
this point.
Brothers.
Not those brothers, the Troy brothers,
Okay.
Castor and Pollux.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that makes me appreciate this film a little bit more than I might otherwise. And that's that some thought has gone into stuff like that. It's not just a crappy action movie. Like, a lot of the decisions have been made for very specific reasons. And as soon as I sort of heard Pollux, Castor and Pollux, I was like, oh, okay, like the Greek mythology. So I did a bit of digging. Castor and Pollux were twins, I believe. Zeus's sons. One of them, one of them, his father was Zeus, so he was immortal. The other one, his father was human, so he was human.
So they were half brothers.
Half brothers.
Right. Like the Mitchell brothers.
But with decidedly more hair. That's the only difference. But in the story, Zeus sort of took pity on them, so gave the other one half of his immortality rather, because they couldn't bear to be separated by death.
Right.
Which sort of kind of lends it a bit more weight.
Yeah.
When he gets upset at his brother's death and stuff.
Well, he's definitely just the one person that he cares about. Yeah. Isn't it?
But also Castor and Pollux represent Gemini in the Zodiac.
Right.
And so obviously the opposite is Sean Archer. Archer represents Sagittarius, which is diametrically opposed to Gemini in the Zodiac.
Okay. So
like there is some stuff going on.
They've taken
it's not just we're calling this guy this thing.
Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. When all that sort of stuff is interesting. Obviously, you've got Eve. There's an Adam and an Eve in this movie.
Yeah.
So you've got all of that stuff. It's and obviously Danny Masterson.
Oh God, Danny Masterson jump scare playing a rapist, which is not too far from his wheelhouse.
Yeah, but he does get kicked in the nuts.
Which was very satisfying to watch, I have to say.
To watch that on repeat.
Yeah, just gif it.
But once is it Archer that or John Travolta that Nicolas Cage, fucking hell, he doesn't drop Pollux through the roof light?
Yes,
or something like that, and then Troy is obviously pissed at that. But that's when just after that gunfight in the house, which is probably my favourite part of this movie, I would say.
I was going to ask you which of the sequences are your favourite.
The storming of the apartment building for sure, where you've got Cassavetes and Gina Gershon, and
their weird sibling kiss.
Their brother and sister. Don't do that. And don't do that in this movie. What? That's just making me... go, why?
You like movies with incest in too.
Yeah, clearly. But that's the point where Nicolas Cage as Sean Archer is kind of starting to enjoy the life a little bit. And what's interesting as well is that you can see that, as silly as this film is, like obviously his dead son, he spends the whole movie crying about it. Oh, get over it. But he's, I guess, with the drugs and literally putting on someone else's face, he's kind of learning how to not think about that all the time. And he's probably like a bit relieved by that and starting to enjoy it a bit.
Maybe there's an autistic reading of this film where it's actually about masking.
Yeah. And they literally mask each other. Yeah. I like that. But yeah, that's definitely my favourite sequence, I think, is that siege on that. And you get that beautiful and iconic shot where they're back to back.
Of course,
and then they face the mirror, which is just like, I don't know, it's a genius thought. It's things like that make this movie work so well, I think.
Well, it's like you said, though, John Woo's the guy for that sort of action, isn't he?
Yeah. And I feel like there was way more slow motion in Hard Boiled than there was in this one, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I remember in towards the end of Hard Boiled, you've got that corridor scene where the two of them are, there's gunfight and it's a really slow, like they're just stepping and it's in the slow
hospital.
motion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's really well done. And there is some of that here, but it's not, I feel like it's not to the same extent. It's more like when Cage whips his coat and you see the guns and it's sort of, the coat flows through the air in slow motion. It's just little shots like that. They're very cool. It's very stylized.
Yeah. And everybody takes the piss about the doves and stuff, and obviously they are present here.
Yeah, of course. It wouldn't be a woo movie without a dove.
No.
The first time some birds appear and I went, oh, look, doves. And you went, no, they're pigeons, darling.
No. I wrote that down.
Seagulls.
You said, are they doves or pigeons? And I said, that's a seagull.
Oh, right.
And then there are actual doves.
Right, yeah. Yeah. So it's just birds in general he's a fan of.
Yeah, must be.
Yeah. What's your favourite scene part of this movie then? Is it the action stuff? Is it the
Yeah, I mean, look, we've talked about this before in other shows. I've considered myself a fan of action movies for a while, but I'm starting, the more I watch of them, the more I'm learning that actually I favour martial arts more than straight action, because explosions don't do a lot for me. And there are quite a few explosions in this movie.
Yeah, there's fucking loads of them.
The plane stuff was pretty cool at the start. And that was an actual plane, you know. They did that for real.
Yeah.
And they filmed it from 13 different angles because they were genuinely trashing a plane and couldn't do it again.
Well, you've got one chance.
Yeah.
At this. Yeah.
So that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, definitely.
Also the boat stuff at the end, because all of that was filmed for real as well.
It's so extra, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, we've just had a shootout at the funeral place and now we're doing a boat chase?
Why not?
Yeah.
This boat's going through another boat? What the hell?
Yeah.
Are they that poorly constructed?
Yeah.
That one's just made out of fiberglass.
Yeah. Balsa wood.
But apparently the boat chase thing was a recycled idea from Hard Target.
Oh, but I'm guessing they didn't have the budget for it in Hard
Probably
Target.
not, no.
Yeah. But I really like the climax of that movie, though.
Yeah, it's funny. The first show we ever did being Hard Boiled, and I hadn't seen Hard Target at that point. Now I have.
We rectified that quite promptly.
We did, yes.
Didn't you love seeing Wilford Brimley?
I always do.
Yeah,
well, not anymore. God bless him.
No.
But yeah, I really enjoyed that stuff. I think because it's so extra.
You've just got to forget about it, haven't you? Like, there's no... I can understand if this film's not for you, it's not for you. And I get it, because it's fucking absurd. But, like, you've just got to go, all right, just forget everything and just enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I can do that. I think I can mostly do that. With action, I can just definitely do that.
I mean, it sort of establishes its world pretty early on.
Yeah. You're so right.
So I think it's easy to just go along for the ride. And actually, going back to what you said earlier, I think maybe if it was a film of two halves and it was sort of like an hour of the cat and mouse stuff, then the actual face swap, and then the second half, I think maybe if you'd been in this for an hour, maybe the face swap stuff would have been harder to swallow.
Yeah, that's fair. It definitely sets out its world early. You're right, and it's sort of the tone remains consistent throughout.
Yeah.
So you're right. If it's sort of a bit more grounded at the start, and then all of a sudden they're like, "What?
Yeah.
What's going on now?" Yeah, you're right. It's probably the right move. I feel like I can't help but want that kind of version of it.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. I think
make it 3 hours. I don't give a fuck.
God, I don't know about that. I do agree with you, but I think maybe there was some consideration of that in the decision making. I'll be honest and say that I think the length of the movie is one of the things I don't like. I think it's maybe a bit too long.
I think this version of it, I think you're right. I think it definitely, for me, in the middle there, when the prison's happening and when the kind of the family dynamic with Sean Archer.
Oh, the stuff with the daughter.
You just don't want to be thinking about that in this movie because this is such a popcorn, stupid entertainment movie. You're like, this feels weirdly dark and unnecessary.
The daughter character didn't need to be in it at all.
Nah. Waste of time.
And also, I don't like how a lot of that was approached as well, like the weirdness when Travolta was actually Castor Troy.
Yes.
That stuff was gross. And like, I know it's supposed to be. I get what they were going for. And some of the character choices were laughable.
Yeah.
I think with Dominique Swain kind of made a name for herself in the 90s and then sort of disappeared. But the first time we see her, she's wearing, well, she looks a little bit like somebody's tried to draw Gene Simmons from memory.
It was the kid from Role Models.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, the kids at school are making fun of her. Good. They should. She looked a state.
Yeah.
It'll be a good life lesson.
But you see, it's very clever, really, because it's all part of the narrative, because he says, who are you supposed to be now? And really the question is, who is he supposed to be?
No, I know. And I understand it. But that felt like dead weight to me.
I couldn't agree more. I think it would have been way more interest. Like, you see the family at the start, that's part of the Sean Archer character. Sure, that's part of his narrative, right? The dead kid, you do the identify each other's family by rubbing their hands on their faces.
Oh God, I forgot all about that.
Thing.
You know,
they have to do that. That's how they greet each other every time. What do you think that they, when they're walking just from room to room, they have to?
They do that every time. Yeah,
they brush each other's faces. All the time. It's part of the family,
regardless of the task at hand as well.
Yeah,
and in the middle of cooking.
Yeah, and then when you procure the child of dead criminals at the end of the movie, you introduce them to the face thing, and then they become part of the face thing immediately.
Yeah,
that kid should not have. I don't know how that kid got through the foster system into that family. They're like, you did what? You swapped faces with Nicolas Cage. There's no way he's coming to live with you. That is not a safe environment.
This is way too weird.
Yeah.
We at Child Protective Services do not sanction this.
Yeah.
Do you know what? We haven't even mentioned Joan Allen. I just want to give a quick shout out to Joan Allen.
Oh, go for it.
Particularly because, and you'll know this is a gripe of mine, the studio it's always the fucking studio notes, isn't it?
Yeah,
the studio were pushing for a younger actress.
Yeah, obviously.
And John Woo stood his ground because he really wanted Joan Allen.
But she's ancient. She was 37 years old.
I know, right? I hate it so much.
Yeah.
But they wanted her to be a stepmom rather than an actual mom. They wanted a younger stepmom.
Yeah, okay. I can see the step angle. That would maybe introduce an interesting dynamic. Maybe she didn't care as much about the dead kid. I don't know.
So to me, the impression is that they just wanted a younger woman. So it would have had to have been a stepmom because she wouldn't have been old enough to be a biological parent to the teenager.
I understand. Yeah, I think that. I think it was the right move to cast Joan Allen in this. I think she's good. She's not in it a lot, but she is she's a nurse and she has to do the nurse thing and get the blood out at the end. So she does have something to do.
Yeah.
But it's going back to your point. I think when Castor Troy as Sean Archer is integrating himself into the family, I would much rather have been seeing what he's doing at the FBI and maybe being a bit more calculated and seeing some more nefarious stuff going on there. Like he could have introduced some terrorist mates or whatever and been like, yeah, they're good guys. And then they're off doing stuff. And I don't know, just a bit more of that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But much like the complaints that I had about last week's show, Just underuse of women in general.
Yeah.
I quite liked that the Margaret Cho character was included, but I did learn after the fact that it was supposed to be Cherry on Fat.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But
Well, yeah.
he had a different commitment, so he couldn't do it.
She doesn't get a lot to do.
No. But it was still nice to see like a female FBI agent or whatever.
For sure. Gavin Belson was standout though, I think, wasn't he?
Our friend Matt Ross.
Yeah. I didn't know it was. We watched Silicon Valley. I watched it for the first time when you introduced me to it, and I'd seen this a million times, but didn't know he played Gavin Belson, because that's all I see him as now. Whenever I see him in like American Psycho and now this, I'm like, it was just Gavin Belson.
Yeah.
And it's his own fault for just being so fucking perfect in that show. But he was good in this, and he gets a bullet in the brain, gets 2 bullets in the head in this movie.
He does, yeah.
Yeah.
And also gets a new ear. I think John Wayne might have invented 3D printing, you know.
Yeah.
That was creepy.
Yeah. Predicted the future.
Yeah. Just before we start winding the show down, I want to ask you, do you know a very specific connection between the 3 films in Cage's action trilogy? One of which was last week, one of which we've already covered.
A connection between the 3?
A specific connection involving a car between the 3 movies.
Between Con Air, The Rock,
and Face Off.
and Face Off. It's not a Volvo.
It is a Volvo.
Yes! Is it a beige Volvo?
It is a beige Volvo.
I did not know that.
There is, yes. So there's a connecting thread in beige Volvos.
Oh, safest car in the world.
Apparently, yeah. So obviously, he steals a beige Volvo in this one.
Does he?
Oh, well, there's a...
Oh, when he gets out the clink. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. In The Rock, his character says that he drives a beige Volvo.
A beige Volvo. I believe that's what Sean Connery says.
Yes. And in Con Air, he drops the body of Pinball from the plane and it lands on a beige Volvo.
Holy shit. And it's Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
So double win. That's fascinating. I had no
Isn't
idea.
Isn't that fun?
It's his beige Volvo trilogy.
Yes.
What when we put this episode out, we should package the 3 episodes together as the beige Volvo trilogy.
Absolutely
episode.
should. In the same way that Edgar Wright did the Cornetto trilogy. Yeah. This is the beige Volvo trilogy.
Yeah. That's genius. I love that. So it's between Simon West, John Woo, and Michael Bay. They created the beige Volvo trilogy.
Apparently.
That needs to be a box set. Like you get a little toy beige Volvo in it.
Merch, yeah. The works.
Yeah, you get a little t-shirt with it with a beige Volvo on it.
And obviously a bumper sticker that says my other ride is a beige Volvo.
Right. Get on the blower to Universal we need to speak to.
Done.
Love it. So what do you did you I think get the distinct impression that you probably enjoyed this more than The Rock?
Yeah, much more.
Much more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And is that because it's just like all the things we've spoken about, just because it's like crazy and it doesn't care?
I think so, yeah.
Would you say that you enjoy John Woo movies more than Michael Bay movies in general?
Oh, 100%. That was basically going to be one of my ultimate takeaways from these last 2 shows. I'm definitely not a Michael Bay person, but I think I am a John Woo person. It's
just undeniable. Like it's we've said all the way through, and he knows what he's doing, and he's the best at it. It's weird that like lately you get films. I don't know. The newest, most recent John Woo movie I've seen actually. He's put out a couple that I've not seen. That was it. Silent Night.
Silent Night, yeah.
Haven't seen that.
That was recent.
That got shat on a bit, so I haven't been too fussed about it. Paycheck, which didn't feel much like a John Woo movie, if I remember rightly. But when he does the action, he's the best.
Yeah.
He's just the absolute best at that slow motion and just making things look cool. Like the banister slide in Hard Boiled. Like some of the most iconic action stuff I think you've ever seen came from his brain. And I can absolutely understand if you prefer him to Michael Bay. I think I do.
Do you?
Yeah, I think so. I think Bay is good at what he does, but I feel like a lot of what he did, he nicked from John Woo.
Yeah, potentially. And also just a lot less misogyny in John Woo movies, so that's a good way to win me over.
I hope so. Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoy Face Off.
Good.
I think this is only the second time I've ever seen it.
That's crazy.
I know. But it all came flooding back to me.
I've seen it more than twice the first time I rented it.
I thought you were going to say I've seen it more than twice this week.
No, I hadn't seen it in a while, actually. It'd been a good 4 or 5 years, I think, since I'd last watched it. But yeah, I've seen it so many times. I don't even know. So
this is something you return to frequently?
Yeah. It's fun and stupid, and I just put it on. I don't even have to pay attention. It's one of those movies that I've seen so many times, and I have a few of those, like Die with a Vengeance, Bad Boys, Face Off, all of that stuff. I've seen so much. The Rock. I just smash it on in the background, iron my shirts, because I'm always ironing my shirts.
That's what you're known for.
Yeah, that's my middle name, the guy that irons shirts.
It's a bit unwieldy.
Yeah. Cheers, Mum.
So yeah,
how many jobs I've not gotten because my middle name is so weird.
Oh, probably loads.
Yeah,
I would say that's the primary reason for knockbacks.
It's a shame because if I get to the interview stage, they would notice that I've got a perfectly ironed shirt, a crisp shirt.
Yeah,
and I would get the job.
Exactly. It's their loss. What are we doing next week?
Okay, so I teased it earlier.
You did. Not particularly subtly. No, we've gone 96, 97, 98. Yeah.
And because we're going in chronological order for this season, we're going with Snake Eyes next.
I'm excited.
I have seen this once.
I've only seen this once.
Yeah.
When it first came out, and it will be the second De Palma movie that we've covered.
Yeah. So if nothing else, there'll be loads to talk about with De Palma and the craft of it and Cage. So there should be a lot to dig into, I hope. Hopefully with that. Whether we like it or not remains to be seen, but should be interesting.
I'm excited to find out.